What does management have to do with whether or not your dog listens to you? The dictionary defines manage as taking charge or care of. With our dogs, it means managing their environment so that things are optimal for their success and our convenience. Because let's face it, we're all busier than ever. And anything that is going to be hard to maintain on a regular basis is ultimately going to fail us and our dog. So it's best to think your management plan out clearly before you start trying things haphazardly. That doesn't mean that your plan has to be perfect the first time, or that it's set in stone. It should also be flexible so that if and when circumstances change, your plan can adapt. Or if you try something you thought was going to work well for you and your dog and it turns out that it didn't, you can adapt that as well. Management of the environment includes any place your dog is going to be. This is especially important if you have a dog that is overly sensitive in any way. Sensitive to sounds, other people, dogs, other pets, kids, visitors, etc. Today we're going to talk about when to use management as a permanent solution and when to use it as a temporary solution and how to decide. The goal of managing your dog's environment is to set you both up for success as easily as possible and to give you peace of mind while your dog stays appropriately busy and calm. Hi, I'm Amy from How to Speak Dog. I'm a canine behavior consultant and trainer and founder of How to Speak Dog, where I help families living with dogs who struggle to listen learn the canine life skills that will improve their dog's listening skills and stop all the feelings of embarrassment, worry, confusion, and overwhelm that are caused by their dog's bad behavior without spending hours training or using methods that just don't solve the everyday problems dog parents face. Since 1983, I have transformed thousands of dogs with bad behavior into dogs who listen reliably no matter who is there or where they are. I'm here to help you transform your dog's bad behavior too. If you're new to the channel, welcome, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the brand new training videos I put out here every Tuesday. Let's get started. Living with dogs requires both management strategies and behavior change skills. Today we're talking specifically about management strategies. What are management strategies? Should they be short-term or long-term? And how do you decide? Let's get into it. Management strategies include anything that keeps your dog from doing something you don't want them to do, or keep them someplace that you want them to stay or stay away from when you can't be there to directly intervene. So let's look at some scenarios where management can help. In each of these, we'll discuss short-term and long-term use and how to decide. Remember, the goal is for our dogs to have little to no opportunity to practice the behaviors we want to change and plenty of opportunities to practice the behaviors that we want to see. Let's start with countersurfing or thievery. This means any type of behavior where your dog is taking things that don't belong to them or that they shouldn't have. The solution that comes to mind first is to just keep things out of their reach at all times. However, that's not always possible for several different reasons, including inconvenience, kids not understanding the concept, temporary access, and many more. So depending on the severity of the thievery will determine whether you need a long-term or short-term solution. Here's an example. We had a yellow lab named Jake, and he absolutely loved bread. Don't ask me why, seems weird I know, but he did. I mean, he was so obsessed. Every time he heard the bread bag rustle, he came running from anywhere. The problem was not only that he had easy access due to his size, but he would eat the entire loaf if he was able to get to it. In that case, bread was the only concern for us. We were able to leave other things out that he would never bother. Again, strange I know, but true. So we only had to remember to never leave bread out when we weren't around to supervise him. So ours was a long-term management solution. Teaching a skill in this type of scenario would be nearly impossible without using aversive methods, because the behavior only happened when we were not present. So we would have had to rely on something else to correct the behavior instead of us redirecting the behavior. It was so much easier for everybody just to manage things by keeping the bread put away. In another case, we had a dog who loved to get into the bathroom garbage and tear up tissues. Initially, we used a management technique of closing the bathroom door just to keep him out. However, that wasn't feasible long-term because not everyone remembers to shut the door every single time, nor did we often remember to tell guests. So first, we used his leave it skill if he ever went near the garbage cans when we were present. We let him make the choice and then redirected until he understood that the cans were off limits. Once he started choosing to ignore the cans, we didn't have to cue him to leave it anymore. But we did recognize and praise him every time he made the good choice from there on, even years later. Another example of reinforcing the behavior we want to see. We also did shut the bathroom doors when we were away, just to avoid any temptation for him when there was no chance of our intervention, which also denied him the opportunity to practice the behavior we didn't want to see. Another option would have been to use a crate or keep him in a certain room when we were away. We didn't have to though, because luckily for us, tissues were his only fetish. Teaching a dog boundaries to completely stay out of an area in question can also work in this scenario. Growing up, my aunt had a dog that was only allowed in the kitchen, laundry room, and family room. No matter how hard I tried as a kid, she would not cross that threshold from the kitchen into the rest of the house. There was no door to close that was stopping her. They had just taught her that was a boundary she wasn't supposed to cross. Now I understand how beneficial that was for them. They only had 3 rooms to worry about keeping dogs safe, which was a lot easier considering there were also 6 kids living there. The family spent the majority of their time in those 3 rooms. And when everyone left for the night, she didn't bark or cry or whine. She just went to the couch and went to sleep until the next morning when the family rejoined her. Now that I think about it, she actually had the biggest crate I've ever seen, and she had the choice to be anywhere she wanted in those 3 rooms. Another simple example would be like my daughter. She has medium-sized dogs, and she lives in an apartment with a tiny kitchen. Keeping them out of the kitchen is her only option so she's not tripping over them while trying to cook. Her kitchen is tiny enough that she didn't have to use a physical barrier to start teaching them to stay out, but if you have a larger kitchen and you want to do this, that may be how you have to teach them initially. Using a physical barrier such as a baby gate in this situation is a temporary management solution while they're learning the other skill. Now let's talk about escaping. If you have a dog who likes to rush out the door every chance they get, you may have to manage the environment with physical barriers or keep them on a leash until you can teach them not to run out the door. This is a clear case of short-term management while teaching a more permanent skill, impulse control, and behavior. Wait until released to solve the problem. Another scenario where this might be helpful is if they jump out of the car before you're ready for them to, or jumping out of the tub. Initially, you may have to leash them until they learn to become more comfortable with baths. If they are escaping your yard by digging out or getting through gaps in the fence, when you will have to use long-term management of blocking the escape routes. Unfortunately, this type of behavior is heavily reinforced every time they get to experience the world outside of your yard without you with them. So removing the escape opportunity is the only way to change this behavior. Once they have been successful at escaping, it's like forbidden fruit. The more they are successful, the harder it is for you to stop, because the reward is so great for them. If for some reason you're unable to completely block escape routes, then you will have to only allow them outside completely supervised, even if that means you have to keep them on leash. Another scenario where management is effective is when there is destructive behavior. Depending on the severity of destruction, what they are destroying and when will determine if you need short-term or long-term management strategies. The best example is young puppies. Keeping them confined to a small area like a crate or a small room when you are unable to supervise them reduces their opportunity to practice destructive behavior, therefore they never learn it. And I mean destroying inappropriate things. If they only have access to appropriate things to chew, shred, and destroy, they learn to only look for those things when the urge arises. When they are young, if you give them too many choices, it's too much for them to be able to make the right choice. As they mature, they associate the good feelings from chewing, shredding, and destroying things with the things that they have been exposed to that they are allowed to chew and destroy. This works with older dogs too. You just have to go back to confining them and gradually give them access to more space as they are able to handle it. Decompression is another place where management is very effective. If you have a dog that has anxiety or just prefers some alone time to settle, recharge, or decompress, giving them a safe space to go to is the kindest thing you can do for them. Every dog should have the option of a safe space, but some will use it more than others. I have a client who has multiple dogs, one of which has anxiety, and if she doesn't get her decompression time, her behavior escalates to aggression towards the other dogs. When I introduced the safe space concept to this client, they said they did have a room that they placed her in when her behavior escalated, but they felt bad isolating her from the rest of the group. Once they understood the concept, they put up a baby gate so that she was the only one that could get to that room, and she began going there on her own when she felt overwhelmed. Giving her that option has actually resulted in her choosing to spend more time with the family, because she knows she has that option anytime she needs it. So she gets to choose whether she can handle things or not, and she can come and go as she pleases, which has improved her anxiety and therefore her aggressive behavior. So the baby gate is a long-term solution that keeps the other dogs away from her when she needs her alone time. So let's recap. We've talked about using management strategies temporarily and long-term. We've talked about using them for convenience and peace of mind for you, and safety and opportunities for choice for your dog. Management is a big part of behavior change, and often is all that is needed. The dog given her room to retreat to was not taught any new skills or cued behaviors. She was just allowed the space and opportunity to self-regulate her anxiety. If you're interested in learning more about the framework I developed that includes these management strategies and much more, I invite you to check out my website, which is linked below. But if you're ready to get started right away, I suggest you check out the primer to my Power Principles framework, a 1-hour self-paced digital course called From Chaos to Calm, a guide to connecting powerfully with your dog. For a limited time, it's on sale for only $17. I will link it below too. As always, if you have questions, ask in the comments and I'll be happy to answer them. I've asked YouTube to recommend the next best video for you, which you can get to right here. I hope you found this training useful today. I would love to hear any feedback you have once you've tried some of these strategies. I put new training videos out here every Tuesday. So if you don't want to miss any episodes, remember to hit like and subscribe and turn on your notifications. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you right back here next Tuesday for our next episode.